Namaste everyone, welcome to another episode of the Panenka View podcast. We are on the third episode. Wow, we're already on the third episode, and I hope you have had a good week. I hope you had a great week, but if you haven't, there is so much football to look forward to this weekend, spicing up with Arsenal versus Liverpool. But before we get into the lineup of today's podcast, we just want to do a quick run through or a roundup of the League Cup, the Carabao Cup that took place in the last night, and I think there's one more game that's coming up tonight. But let's just give you a quick run through. So Chelsea beat Derby County 3-2. Arsenal won 2-1 against Blackpool at home. West Ham were beaten 3-1 by Spurs. Then you have Middlesbrough, who won 1-0 against Palace. Burton 3-2 against Nottingham Forest. Then we obviously know that the Leicester versus Southampton game has been postponed, which will be played later. And Man City play Fulham tonight. So, a quick conclusion. We have our quarter-final ties. So that's Middlesbrough versus Burton, Chelsea versus Bournemouth. Then you have the winner of Leicester and Southampton versus Man City and Fulham. And the big one from the quarterfinals, Arsenal versus Tottenham. Yeah, you heard me correctly. Arsenal versus Tottenham, another North London derby in December. And there's one more to look out to in the league, and then there's one more to look out to in the Carabao Cup. So, Supro, Arsenal versus Tottenham, two North London derbies in December. How do you go about the significance of that fixture?
Hey everyone, I would like to say that Emery was about to face his first North London derby in December, and instead of facing one, he faces two. And as Arsenal fans, we know how significant the North London derby is, and especially for whatever is happening around at Tottenham with the stadium, with the finances. It becomes a very important fixture for Tottenham, obviously, and for Arsenal as well. And Arsenal, if they eliminate Tottenham, knock out Tottenham out of the League Cup, it will be fans are going to enjoy it, obviously. And yeah, it looks like two good fixtures will be held in December for North London derby.
So you mentioned two important fixtures. What would you love to have? I'm already going to place my order on butter chicken. I think butter chicken and chicken tikka masala. Two North London derbies, two chicken dishes. Murgiya hongi halal is what I am expecting. Don't go on that for me, Tottenham fans. Okay. Oh, I forgot. Are there any Tottenham fans in India? Maybe there are. Okay, so that's about the League Cup, and we're heading to the quarterfinals. But now, just let's turn our attention to the big game in the Premier League, Arsenal versus Liverpool. अरे यार पक गए हो गए आप लोग big game बोल के. तो I'm going to say masala game, spice up game, थोड़ा philosophy versus philosophy, Emery ball versus Gegen pressing, Emery ball versus heavy metal football, Arsenal versus Liverpool Saturday night late fixture. So before we get in the depth of that fixture, let's run through what we do today on the episode of the Panenka View. We take you through Arsenal versus Liverpool, Bournemouth versus Man United, a quick run through of the other league games in the Premier League, a quick discussion on Real Madrid's next opponent, Barcelona's game, Juventus and Cristiano Ronaldo, and PSG versus Lille. So I hope you enjoy this episode. And now getting back to Arsenal versus Liverpool, it's the real test for the Gunners. Like everyone's been saying, they've been on a 13-game unbeaten run. Obviously, they were on an 11-game winning run, which was halted at Palace. But that means 12 games unbeaten, and then they beat Blackpool last night 2-1 at the Emirates. Guendouzi going off, Lichtsteiner becoming the oldest player in the competition to score, and Emil Smith-Rowe becoming the youngest player to score in the League Cup. But now all the attention's turned to the big one, Arsenal versus Liverpool, the Gunners versus the Reds. And the head-to-head suggests in the last 6 games, it's Liverpool who's been on top 3 times, and there have been 3 draws. But here's another thing. Liverpool have only won twice away to Arsenal in their previous 18 league matches. But this is a totally different game, you know. You have Emery, who's just taken charge of the Gunners this season. You have Klopp, who's been there for 3.5 seasons. This is his 4th season. And he's pretty much got his team together. Meanwhile, on the other side, it's Emery who's just making things tick at Arsenal with whatever he has at his disposal. So joining me now, Suprotim is going to have his thoughts on Arsenal versus Liverpool.
Yeah, before talking about Arsenal Liverpool, I just like to add that the viewership of the League Cup because of the Arsenal Tottenham game will go very high, especially since the competition is not being taken very seriously in England, and a derby like that will really help the League Cup increase the viewership. And as for Arsenal versus Liverpool, well, yeah, this is one of the biggest fixtures in the Premier League calendar. Direct 6-pointer affecting the league table for the top 4 places and for the league title race this year. Arsenal, since Jurgen Klopp took over, Arsenal haven't beaten him. Jurgen Klopp has repeatedly called Arsene Wenger's number. And one thing that Jurgen Klopp said after Arsenal's defeat of Liverpool at Anfield 4-0 last year is that if you offer Arsenal time and space, they will kill you. And this is where Jurgen Klopp prevailed over Arsene Wenger. He pressed them so ferociously high up the pitch that Wenger's teams regularly gave away possession. The turnovers were very high, and you could see that why Arsenal couldn't beat Liverpool at all. Even in Jurgen Klopp's first season, when Liverpool and Arsenal drew 3-3 at Anfield, Arsenal were the better team than Liverpool, and still Wenger couldn't get a win. So yeah, Liverpool have been really dominant over Arsenal. In the past 3 games, they have scored 4 times twice. They have scored 3 times twice, and they obviously scored more goals than Arsenal and conceded lesser goals than Arsenal. But this is a different Arsenal team again in Unai Emery. He is a very structured manager, unlike Wenger, who allows his players to be more creative and allow them to roam into spaces so as to create more chances. Because Wenger's philosophy is pretty simple. If you want to enhance creativity, you have to give the freedom to the players. Emery, on the other hand, prefers his football to be very structured. So this will be a different ball game for Jurgen Klopp. And Unai Emery has that big win over Jurgen Klopp in the Europa League final, which Sevilla won 3-1 against Liverpool. That might be lingering in Klopp's mind. So yeah, let's see. This should be a very tasty fixture.
And you mentioned some of the key points you mentioned were the 3-3 draw in which Arsenal were the better team, and then they just conceded that goal, Firmino hitting Czech's hand and is going in. And the thing is that Liverpool have managed to score at least 3 and more in the last 5 games against Arsenal. I mean, that's what they have managed to score. And if you look at their clean sheets this season, I think they've improved. They've gone on from last season and they've improved on the defensive side. They've brought in Van Dijk. They brought in Alisson. So they've made significant amount of investment on the right side of the pitch because they have an explosive trio. They've also invested in the midfield, Naby Keita and Fabinho. And Van Dijk adds so much steel to that defense. And you have Alisson, who's been spectacular. I mean, he's had 6 clean sheets. And this weekend, where they conceded the goal against Cardiff, was their first ever conceded at Anfield. But we're talking about Emirates here. And we are talking about something which has been Arsenal's fortress last season. So, Arsenal have been winless against Liverpool in their past 6 games. Arsenal have managed to keep only 2 clean sheets. That was against Everton and Watford. And Arsenal have scored more goals than Liverpool. Where do we see this going? Like, Arsenal have scored more goals than Liverpool. Obviously, Liverpool have conceded fewer goals, but Arsenal have scored more goals than Liverpool. How do you comment on that?
Yeah, I think Emery will be very cautious in his approach. I think the first half, Arsenal will try to keep the scores level at 0-0 because Arsenal have been conceding a lot of chances, too many for their liking, and I'm surprised that they've only conceded 13 league goals so far. And especially against a team like Liverpool, who play counter-attacking football, free flowing football amongst the final three, because they have such a telepathic connection that they can slice you at their own will. Only this gives some opportunity and they slice you at their own will. So Arsenal have to be cautious, and Arsenal have to make sure that the high line they play, they don't get caught behind, because Arsenal leave a lot of spaces behind the defense, and Liverpool's front three are so quick that once they get past you, it's very difficult to stop them. So I think Emery will be very cautious in his first half and try to take the game in the second half, because Liverpool will press from the first half high up the pitch, and that will cause them to lose energy. And in the second half, Arsenal may try to take advantage of the fact that they are in a much better physical shape than Liverpool, and they'll try to exploit it. So I expect this approach from Emery and Jurgen Klopp.
And that brings us to the lineup of the squad. The lineup of the squad, because Arsenal have certain injury views and issues, and you've seen Nacho Monreal and Kolasinac out. They might be back this weekend. That's what we've heard from Emery. But Xhaka's been starting at that left back position. Bellerin limped out, so his fitness will be. It might be a late fitness test. Lichtsteiner just started the Blackpool game. He came on for the 45 minutes against Palace. So Mustafi with the tackle is a little low on confidence, is what I feel, because this is a big game, and the defense has been a problem. Everyone knows that. Everyone's been addressing that the defense has been problem. So who do you select in the back four if you have all the players fit, or how do you go about this game? How do you go about the AFC formation from the back to the front?
So when it comes to the back four, I think the natural choice will be Hector Bellerin, Socrates, Rob Holding, and Nacho Monreal. Nacho Monreal obviously has been Arsenal's best left back in the past 2 seasons. Because Mustafi played in the League Cup and the performance that he gave at Crystal Palace, I don't think Unai Emery will start him against Liverpool in such a big game, because if he starts sliding inside the box, then Arsenal will concede penalties, and that's the last thing they can afford. So I'm pretty sure that Socrates and Holding will be 2 centre backs that will play against Liverpool. As for the formation, I'm not sure if Emery will go for a 4-2-3-1, because Liverpool play a 4-3-3, which means a 3-man midfield. So I think Unai Emery will try to counter that with 3-man midfield of themselves, with Torreira, Xhaka and Ozil, with Aubameyang on the left as the left forward, Lacazette up front, and Iwobi on the right, or Mkhitaryan on the right. But I would personally choose Iwobi, because apart from his game at Chelsea, Mkhitaryan hasn't been performing up to the standards that are expected of him, and especially given the fact that almost all the players at Arsenal have improved and Mkhitaryan hasn't been putting in the performance, I think Mkhitaryan will be rightly dropped for the Liverpool game, and Iwobi will start on the right, which again is a conundrum, because Iwobi's best position is on the left hand side, and he has been putting in the performances on the left rather than on the right. Well, Aubameyang's best position is also on the left, so that's a big problem for Unai Emery, but I think he'll figure it out. And on paper it should be a 4-3-3, but it might also be a 4-2-3-1, depending upon how Unai Emery approaches the game. If it's a cautious approach, I think the wingers will play closer to the full-backs, so as to not give the space that the Liverpool fight forwards crave. But if Arsenal have to attack the game, I think they'll go for a 4-3-3.
And very quickly, that you mentioned there, players playing out of position. Players need to be played in their position. I think that's what the games have taught us. The Leicester game that taught us. You play the players in their position, they shine. You play Mesut Ozil as the number 10, he's going to flourish. You don't play him on the wings. And as far as Iwobi goes, he thrives with the ball. He's been so good under Unai Emery, and very keen and very key point that was that to play him on the left, his position. But then you have Aubameyang, who also likes to play on the left. He obviously tries to play through the middle, but if given a choice, he plays on the left. So that's been a dilemma for Emery. But knowing the coach, he's knowing the obsession with his video analysis and stuff, he's going to sit through this. He's going to see how Liverpool have fared in these 10 games, and then he's going to come out with a plan. We surely know when it's Unai Emery, we've seen he has a plan A, he has a plan B, which was lacking in the previous years, according to me. And about that, Mane has been the top scorer for them with 6 goals. Salah hasn't been that much involved with the goals this season. He's obviously popped up with the assists, but he's on 5. And then you have Sturridge, you have Firmino, who are on 2 goals. And then you have Shaqiri. And there's lot of squad depth in the Liverpool side. So now that we've spoken about the Arsenal formation, we have to speak about the Liverpool formation. So unlike Arsenal, who are a bit short in defense, Liverpool look spoiled for choices in defense, but they have a firm back five, is what I feel. Alisson, then you have Robertson, you have Joe Gomez, you have Lovren, Van Dijk, and Trent Alexander-Arnold. So that's like Klopp has a choice of rotating them, as we've seen in the past 5 games. So how do you make of that Liverpool lineup, right from the back to the front?
The Liverpool lineup is a bit interesting one, because in the past 2 games, Jurgen Klopp has rotated between Alexander-Arnold and Joe Gomez at right back position. Lovren has been playing at centre back, and Van Dijk as well, obviously, and Andy Robertson at right back. Mourinho was played in the last game against Cardiff City. I guess Andy Robertson was rested because of the midweek Champions League game. And the beauty about Liverpool's front three is not about the goals they score, but how they press, because Liverpool's front three block the spaces between the centre back and the midfield. Also they position themselves between the full back and the midfielder, thus blocking the passing lanes, and it becomes very difficult for the midfielders if they're not press resistant. For example, in Arsenal's side, Torreira is a press resistant midfielder, but Granit Xhaka is not. Granit Xhaka is a bit slow. Granit Xhaka is a bit slow on the turnovers. So Liverpool will look to exploit that, because Mane and Salah, they are inside forwards. They start on the wide and they go inside the half spaces and make sure that they create space for Liverpool's fullbacks and Robertson and Trent Arnold or Joe Gomez to exploit from the wide areas, to put in the crosses. And Firmino comes a lot deeper. He acts as a false 9 for them. So Liverpool's front three not only are good on the attacking side, but they are very good on the defensive. That shows that they have a very inept. They are not at all inept when it comes to having a footballing brain. They are more than capable of implementing Jurgen Klopp's philosophy. And Unai Emery has his work cut out. Obviously, he's known as the video analysis king, because he relies on it a lot. And Arsenal have to be tactically very, very much on that A game against Liverpool, because given again, I reiterate the fact that they play a very high line, and if they lose possession high up the pitch, and if Liverpool counter, they are going to be in big trouble.
Man, that's so much analysis you spend. Where do you get such analysis, guys? You get it on the Panenka View podcast. That's why we are here. That's why we are here for a quick roundup, and not just a quick roundup, an in-depth discussion where you see our expert, our tactical analyst Supro going through the both the formations, the players, what philosophies can be implemented, and to quickly round up Arsenal versus Liverpool. Long story short, Arsenal have to turn up in the first half. They have to. If they don't, and they have to, mind you, keep the score at 0-0, you're dealing against a side who has a manager who teaches them to be ready for 120 minutes. That's what I've understood from Jurgen Klopp. Gegen pressing, 120 minutes. Dortmund did that. Liverpool are equipped to do that. So Arsenal have to turn up inside the first half. Not just turn up, but make sure that they don't give up, don't do anything silly in their own box. And Liverpool would be so much high on confidence seeing the past 6 fixtures. But as you rightly mentioned there, Unai Emery is the video king. He of the analysis, he's going to just figure out something. He's going to have plans. One thing that we know, and the Arsenal supporters know, is that they have a plan. There was no plans in the past 2 seasons. I don't think there were any plans from the Arsenal manager, from Arsene Wenger. He just allowed his players to play as they wanted, and now we are more than ready for the opposition. We study them through the video analysis. We make sure that we are ready with a plan B if plan A is not working. And that's much about it from Arsenal versus Liverpool. Arsenal have to turn up. Liverpool are looking to go top. Remember, Man City play on a Sunday, so Liverpool have another chance to go 3 points clear at the top. And a quick prediction, Supro. What do you predict? Where does this game go according to you?
I think I will go for a draw, simply because Arsenal, since they lost to Chelsea, have been really good. Only their big concern is the first half performances where they are slow to come out of the blocks. But if they can sort that problem out against Liverpool, I think they have got a chance to win. But Liverpool being Liverpool, having played such well throughout the season, I think draw will be a safe prediction for this game.
Yeah, and as you have seen in the past at the Emirates, if you just that one game in 16-17 where they won 4-3, where they were all over Arsenal, and then Arsenal just made a comeback from 4-1 down to 3-4, but they still lost it. So a very good point there. A draw would be a safe prediction for this, but I have my concerns with Arsenal, and I'm not going to be a Paul Merson here. So I'm not being a Paul Merson here, but I would love Arsenal to prove me wrong. But I'm going for a 2-0 Liverpool win. I don't want to keep that at 0, but I'm very sure Arsenal are going to score. But I feel that this is the big test. This is the real test for Arsenal. No matter how much we go on about that 13-game winning streak, obviously you can beat what is in front of you, but this is going to be the big test for Arsenal. This, and not to mention, it's November, and November has not always treated us well. So it's like the beginning of November, Arsenal versus Liverpool, the big game, Unai Emery's big real test after the Stamford Bridge game against Chelsea. So guys, that's about it from Arsenal versus Liverpool. And moving on to an early fixture on Saturday, Bournemouth versus Man United. Well, unlike the past seasons, Man United, Masala Man Jose Mourinho ki side, not above Bournemouth, not above anyone. Oops. 6th versus 8th. Eddie Howe's managerial stance has been reaping its fruits, and you can see how Bournemouth are performing. And very quickly here, Supro is going to tell me, Supro, Bournemouth versus Manchester United, Boumou, B-O-U-M-O-U. Oh no, B-O-U-M-U-F-C. अरे नहीं यार, B-O-U-M-O-U ही ठीक है. Boumou sounds so good. Boo for Bournemouth, Moo for Mourinho. Look, I know you're telling me not to bring in too much of Mourinho, but I'm kind of obsessed with that guy, Masala Man. That guy gives me a lot of views on my podcast, so I'm going to bring it up. But anyway, now on to what you would like to add to Bournemouth versus Manchester United, the early game from Saturday.
I think the key point will be whether Lukaku starts up front or Rashford starts up front, because obviously Jose Mourinho finally dropped Romelu Lukaku, and along with Matic and David De Gea, I think he seemed to be an undroppable player, and Mourinho did drop him. So my gut feeling says that maybe Mourinho will go back to plan A and start Lukaku, but you never know, because Rashford hasn't really proved himself up front. And as far as Arsenal AFC Bournemouth go, I think this could be Eddie Howe's breakthrough season in the Premier League, because a lot has been said about his managerial style, and yes, obviously Bournemouth play really good football. That shows with the number of goals they have scored. They have scored more goals than Manchester United this season in the Premier League, and they have always, and goal scoring has never been a problem. It has been the defense that has been a concern for AFC Bournemouth, and not that the defense has been very great this season. It has been a bit leaky, but still they have managed to get results, and they have actually got 3 clean sheets in the last 4 games, and overall in the Premier League. Okay, and yeah, where they are at the moment in the league table, that shows that how Bournemouth have improved from the past season. Goals, again, I reiterate, goal scoring has never been a problem for them, but yeah, as I was saying, that this could be the breakthrough season for Eddie Howe, because he has been linked to so many top clubs, but the question mark that arises over him, that does he have the mentality to manage a big club? Like, for example, he was linked to Arsenal before Unai Emery got appointed. So
and to very quickly add to the Lukaku point, on where Lukaku starts. Lukaku scored 6 goals in 3 games against Bournemouth. So that gives Mourinho another thing, in his mind. Yeah, Lukaku has been very good against Bournemouth. Although now the playing field has changed. I mean, Bournemouth's form has been better than Manchester United. But Man United won 2-1 against Everton, and We are looking at a game where anything could happen. This is a big game. This is another two sides that are looking for points, that are in the hunt for Europe, not to forget, even if not the Champions League, the Europa League. So Man United have to recover from the start they have endured to this season. So for Jose Mourinho and Manchester United, they cannot drop any more points further. Otherwise, they drift even below and they drift away from the top. So Bournemouth versus Manchester United is one of those games where you would want it to be a draw as a fan of a club, but seeing that it's a big fixture. But I think this fixture just goes Manchester United's way. I remember Jose Mourinho's side's performance against Watford, and everyone thought Watford would just beat them, but they were so clinical and technical against Watford that they overpowered them. So where do you see Bournemouth versus Manchester United going? A quick prediction from you.
Well, I think I'll go for a Bournemouth upset. Or is it an upset given the way Manchester United performing this season? But yeah, I think Bournemouth might take this game at home because it's at the Vitality Stadium. I think they should nick it. 2-1.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's an interesting prediction. I'm going for a 3-1 Manchester United win. And, don't get me wrong. I call him the Masala Man and I call him everything. But saying Supro say 2-1 to Bournemouth, I'm going to go with 3-1 to Man United. Scorers? Yeah, maybe Lukaku is on the score sheet, surely, for this one. Martial scores, and I don't know the third goal scorer. But hey, Wilson, if you're listening, you're in my FPL team and you better score there because I need some points badly. So now, from Bournemouth Man United 2, a quick roundup of Manchester City, Southampton and Chelsea versus Crystal Palace. Well, Manchester City welcome Southampton at the Etihad Stadium. Manchester City are top of the league and they would be looking forward to extending that league, knowing that Liverpool play Arsenal, which is a big game where they might drop points. This is the perfect game for Pep Guardiola to just drift away from the top four. And he could just establish a 3-point lead at the top. Well, if you look at the head-to-heads, obviously Manchester City are quite ahead, 8 wins, 2 draws, and Southampton have only beaten them twice in the past 12 games. And the last Southampton win in the Premier League came in the 2015-2016 season where they beat them 4-2. And ever since then, it's been Manchester City. And not to forget, on the last day of the Premier League last season, Manchester City had that record of 100 points where Gabriel Jesus popped up with that 94th minute goal that gave City a historic end to the season, notching 100 points. So this is that fixture. And everyone has been in top form for Man City. You have Kevin De Bruyne back. So Pep is again spoiled for choices. He has so much on his plate. He has so much backup. And he can just go about his rotation policy and start Aguero. And he obviously Mahrez, Sterling, Sané on the wings. So that's Manchester City Southampton, a match where City can just extend their lead at the top. And then you have Chelsea versus Crystal Palace. Well, Palace have had a torrid run. Obviously they had a draw against Arsenal, but they are winless in their last 5. Chelsea meanwhile have 4 wins in their last 5. They have drawn 1 game, and that we all know that game against Liverpool. And Maurizio Sarri's men would keep in mind that Liverpool play Arsenal again. I'm mentioning the Liverpool-Arsenal game because it has a lot of significance on the table. So Maurizio Sarri's men will be keeping an eye on that, looking forward to get a win and make sure they extend their lead. If Liverpool drop points, then that would mean Chelsea and Arsenal and Tottenham are the real benefiters of that. So Crystal Palace versus Chelsea, I can see it going only one way. If Eden Hazard returns, which is, that could go Chelsea's way. So that's much about it from the Premier League. And what you need to know right now, Arsenal versus Liverpool is the big game. You have Bournemouth versus Man United, which is a Saturday evening kickoff. And then you have Man City versus Southampton, and you have Chelsea versus Crystal Palace. So very quickly, Supro, if we could go through some big clubs, that is Real Madrid, Barcelona, Juventus, PSG. Or first up, Real Madrid. Real Madrid face Real Valladolid. And to tell you, Valladolid are 6th in the table. They are unbeaten in their last 7 matches. And the only 2 matches they have lost are against Alaves and Barca at home, which are the top 2 sides in the La Liga currently. So if people thought that the El Clasico humiliation was the end of the humiliation, Real Madrid still have a lot to figure out, because they have Marcelo and Carvajal injured, and who knows what the new manager does with that side. Supro, how do you see Real Madrid starting this weekend?
Well, I haven't watched a lot of Real Valladolid, but I have watched enough of Real Madrid to conclude that they will definitely win that game, because it will be classic Real Madrid. The manager is gone, now they are back, now the players will play to the full potential, and Real Madrid will get the win, and it will be all rosy again, like nothing ever happened, like a 5-1 defeat at Nou Camp never happened. And with the managerial situation at Real Madrid, it's a bit dicey, because recently we read that Antonio Conte doesn't want to manage Real Madrid, and even Michael Laudrup has rejected them. And it's an irony that the biggest club in the world, and no one wants to take up the biggest job in the game, because of the uncertainty, because of the player power that exists in the Real Madrid dressing room. And I'm surprised that a manager like Arsene Wenger, who is ready to work again, hasn't been approached yet. I think there might be an approach, but as far as rumors go, the latest on the line is Roberto Martinez. Now let's see if Belgium lets him go or what.
Wow, Roberto Martinez, really?
Yeah.
Well, that was out of the blue for me, but that's again some good research from Supro, who's been killing it this episode, killing it with his formations, with his tactical analysis, with his inside news. Well, if we have to speak on Valladolid's away form, they have so far not lost a game. Let me tell you that. They have been unbeaten in their last 5 games. They have 2 0-0 draws. They have a 3-3 draw against Celta Vigo. They have 2 1-0 wins against Villarreal and Real Betis. So even if it's the Bernabeu, they haven't lost an away game, and Real Madrid will have a lot to figure out. A lot. Who knows? This might be a start of another special season like they had under Zidane, and you never know where football takes you, because it's a long season. So that's about it from Real Madrid versus Valladolid. And if we speak about Real Madrid, how can we forget Barcelona? Rayo Vallecano versus Barcelona. And you have Barcelona, who are top of the league. Their last defeat was against Leganés away, which reminds me that they are away to Rayo Vallecano. And Rayo Vallecano are obviously struggling a bit. And you have Messi, who's back in training, but I don't think Valverde would risk him for this game, knowing the choices that he has up front. Well, Barca haven't won an away game in the last 2 matches. They have drawn 1 and they have lost 1. But to point out, they've scored 9 goals in their last 2 games, 4-2 against Sevilla and 5-1 in the Clasico that we all saw. And Sergi Samper, again injured last night. His misery continues. I really feel for that guy. But compared to Real Madrid, I think Barcelona have a lot of options. And Supro, Barcelona with Messi, even with Messi out, they beat Real Madrid 5-1. So how do you see Rayo Vallecano versus Barcelona turning out to be? How does that game go?
Yeah, they will be on a high after beating Real Madrid 5-1 in the Clasico. So if one would hope that they'll continue their form and beat Rayo Vallecano as well. They are without Messi, I guess, since he just returned in training after a broken arm injury. But then again, they have got Dembele and Malcolm on the bench, so they're spot for choices. Even Rafinha is in good form. And there have been rumors that Dembele or Malcolm might move in January on loan or permanently. So it might be a good game for them to prove to stake their claim in the side, or to prove their suitors that they're ready for the other big leagues, other big teams, and they can prove their money's worth.
And that's about it from Rayo Vallecano versus Barcelona. So make sure you tune into those games. to make sure. I'm more excited for the Real Madrid game. I want to see how that pans out, because they've been under such immense pressure. Only 2 wins in their last 7. If you're asking me where the 2 came from, it was last night in the Copa del Rey where they won 4-0. अभी टीम मत पूछो यार, कोपा डेल रे है, कोई छोटी मोटी टीम होगी, मेलिया, ठीक है. तो फ्रॉम देयर we turn our attentions to Serie A, where we have Cristiano goal. अरे यार है Cristiano, तो इसके लिए बोल दिया यार. Juve versus Cagliari, and Cristiano and his Juventus side are top. 10 games, 9 wins, 28 points. While I'm mentioning points, because the last time in 2005-06, Juventus managed a tally of 30 points out of 33 in their 11 games, and they could surpass that tally this time. That could be 31 out of 33. So that's something that they would want to do. They've been thoroughly beating Cagliari for the last 15 matches. They haven't lost a game. That's not surprising. And they beat Cagliari like 4-0. They are 4-0, four straight wins in a row against Cagliari. And here's where it gets very interesting for you. That's what we do here. Cagliari forward Leonard Pavoletti has scored 19 headed goals since he first scored a headed goal in 2015. Any guesses which European top scorer matches it? Any guesses which guy matches it? Of course, the one who's against him, Cristiano. Level on goals, 19 headed goals, insane. And talking about Cristiano, he's been directly involved in 11 Juventus goals so far this season. Like with the start he's had to his Juve career, where everyone was mocking him for not getting on the score sheet, he's suddenly gone on and changed the games. Like for the last game where he scored a spectacular goal, that one which will be remembered for a long time. And he's been their top scorer through and through. Sia 7 goals, Mandzukic with 4, Dybala with 1. You got a team that's much in line for another Scudetto, without a doubt, with Inter and Napoli lurking 6 points behind. And we have AC Milan, who won last night, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, 3-2. Yes, 3-2. And they are in the hunt for the Champions League places as well. So Serie A has been very interesting. And pointing out a key thing, that they've made it regular uploading highlights on the YouTube channel. So make sure to check those highlights out, because this is something that we've noticed this season, where they are prioritizing the highlights. You know, if you miss a game, you could quickly go to their channel and you could see the highlights, and that'll be it. So that's about it for Juventus versus Cagliari. And very quickly on to the big game in the French league. It's PSG versus Lille. Well, PSG are top, 11 wins out of 11, 33 points out of 33, 39 goals scored, 6 conceded. That's a goal difference of 33, which means 3 goals scored every game. That's practically like 3 goals scored every game. And PSG have won all their 6 matches against Lille. Whereas if you look at the form, PSG in their last 5 games have won 4 and drawn 1. Lille, meanwhile, have won 4 and lost 1. Obviously, they don't play the Champions League. So PSG are top. Their top scorer is the French sensation Mbappe, 10 goals. The Brazilian Neymar with 8, Cavani with 5, and then you have the others like Di Maria and Draxler chipping in with 3 each. So that front three is a menace to any defense in Europe. And for Lille, don't be surprised, Jonathan Bamba 7 goals, Nicolas Pepe 7 goals. He has 7. You heard that right. 7 and 7, 14. And Lille's goal difference is just 12. They've scored 20, and out of the 20, these two have contributed to 14 goals. So there's so much to look forward to this weekend. If you look, the Premier League is evenly poised, and every game week determines where these top 4, top 5, top 6 clubs go. With Man United 8, I cannot say top 8. Forgive me for that. You can only say top 6. But I can tell you that Arsenal versus Liverpool is going to be a cracker. And very quickly, again, Supro, do you want to change in your prediction? What do you say?
Yeah, actually, as an Arsenal fan, I'm quite nervous about the game because, yeah, we have been on this 13 game week winning streak, or in this case, unbeaten because we drew against Crystal Palace. But Liverpool have been sensational since the turn of this year. Just not this season, since the start of 2018, since the time they signed Van Dijk. And there's just, if there's one thing I can learn from Liverpool, is the way they handle the Coutinho situation as compared to the Ramsey situation at Arsenal, because they sold Coutinho for such a huge transfer fee, while Arsenal, where they had the chance to sell Aaron Ramsey in the summer for a good 40 to 50 million, they just ran down his contract and are in a position where they could get nothing out of him. And this is after they had already verbally agreed with him on signing a new deal, and even Ramsey had agreed to sign one under the previous regime, which was under Ivan Gazidis. And so once he left, I guess the situation changed. The new management thought that maybe Ramsey wasn't worth as they thought, as Ivan Gazidis thought, and it leaves Arsenal in a very dicey situation because they can sell him in January, but then they have to sign a replacement. And recently, to the BBC, Arsenal CEO Raul Sanllehi said that Arsenal may not be active in the January transfer window. So that leaves Arsenal in a very dicey position. If they sell Ramsey in January, they might not get a lot of money, but they'll get a decent transfer fee. But if they don't sell him in January, they will get nothing out of him. So that's about it, I guess.
Yeah, and so that's more about it from us. I think we've pretty much done justice to everything. We've just given you a quick run through the League Cup, the Carabao Cup. Make sure you tune into the Carabao Cup quarterfinal, Arsenal versus Tottenham. That's a big game. But before that, this weekend, don't forget Arsenal versus Liverpool, Saturday for the Indian viewers. Saturday night, 11 p.m. game. The late kickoff. You have Bournemouth versus Man United, 6 p.m. Saturday. And then you have the other games. You have Manchester City and Chelsea playing on a Sunday. So, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Panenka View. We've done a lot of research today. Wow, that feels so good to finally get to the end of the episode. And I'm sure that you're happy with the first two episodes. And we obviously keep getting better from here. We keep getting better every video. And we make sure that you get the best of research, the best of content, and the best of insights from football. That's about it, ladies and gentlemen, from the Panenka View podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for listening to us. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment. Thank you.